John,
Yeah,
I have a question.
sure.
So I'm did a console log of one
Hmm.
state inside the render method.
Hmm.
So it appeared I can see it twice in my console in my browser.
Hmm.
I don't know why.
I don't know. It could be just that's how many times it's rendering. If you really want to see the state, so let's start here. Now that we're starting to deal with state, I would say it's highly important that you go and you get the Chrome extension, um, React. So just type in Chrome extension React, and it's called React Developer Tools. Okay, and I would install this. I'll post this in Discord right now. Okay, and it allows you on any page, and this is by Facebook, right? So it's real. It's a real deal. Okay? It's not some sort of fake malware or something. Okay? It allows you to go to any React page, and you know when a page is written in React actually, because it has that little. It turns like this. Okay, and then you can actually click on it. Sorry, not click on it. You will go to your inspector, and it'll add a little couple tabs to your inspector, components and profiler, and you know that those are the ones because it contains these little icons beside it. And if you click on components, it breaks it down into components, right? So you can actually see the components that are being rendered. And then when you click on a component, okay, it can actually show you the state. It shows you the props that the component received. For example, the props that it received was this to do. Okay, it also shows you the state, and this is the state of the parent component. So instead of console logging state and like trying to figure out why is it showing up 3 times, why is it showing up 2.5 times, like you can figure that out. Definitely, React has a very specific life cycle of how and when it renders things. And I'm guessing it rendered it and then it maybe broke or something halfway through, which happens. But I would do this if you're looking to check things out. The other really interesting thing you can do in here is you can, I believe you can add new things to spec matching DOM element. I believe you can add new things to the DOM at the same time. Profile, no.
Oh yeah, with this extension, I can see the state.
Yep, yep, you can see the state. Yep, so you can see exactly what state everything is in right now. And then when you add another one, you can state change. New state. It's hard to see because it's too tall up here. There we go. Okay, so I highly recommend, this helps a lot to debug when you're trying to figure out why is this not working? And then you can go in here and check the state and find out that the state is not what you thought it was. Console.log still works generally, but this is a good approach.
Yeah, I found there's some like asynchronous issues with React. I console something, it was empty, but when I check the extension, it's there.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on under the hood, right? And it's hard to understand exactly when things are going to happen if you're straying from the path, right? So if you stick to exactly what you're supposed to do, you'll be fine. If you start straying a little bit from what you're supposed to do, things start to get a little bit dicey. So you have to be careful. So my recommendation is just stick to the path, right? Stick to set state, use this profiler or this plugin to check your stuff. Just otherwise you're going to get some weird results and they're going to send you down crazy rabbit holes that we're not really interested and you shouldn't really be interested in right now anyways, because there's more important things to deal with. Okay. I mean, like long term, yeah, dig in, learn to React front to back, you'll figure everything out. But short term, we've got a week and a day left of React. let's just focus on the big picture. Okay. Now that we're here, maybe we can talk about the application, because we have to do this today. Okay. So for your exercise last night, I asked you to do this repair app. I'm going to do it from scratch. I already prepared an application. I just finished running it. So it's a brand new React app. Okay. It's called Exercise 4. The other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how I would do this from scratch, pulling in this stuff, right? So this is what I gave you, right? The sample, but you could also pull the stuff from here. I thought I made an update to this to get rid of those, but those, it's pretty easy. Okay, I'll modify that. So we're going to pop this open with VS Code, and then we're going to get things running. Start. And while that's starting, I'm going to come over here. I'm going to delete all the useless things that I don't need. And get rid of this. Get rid of this. Empty this out. Empty this out. Oh, not that. Okay. Good. So I got rid of pretty much everything we don't need. I'm going to really focus. It doesn't really matter where I put my CSS, app.css, index.css. Like I mentioned yesterday, it doesn't matter for the rest of the course where you put it. You don't have to break it down. Okay. And then I'm going to pop over here. I'm going to grab my styles from that download from the package I asked you to download. And copy that, and we'll go back over here, and we'll just paste it into app CSS. We'll just paste the whole thing. Okay, no big deal. No big deal. It's just all in here. It'll work fine. Okay. I mean, yeah, it'll work fine. And then we'll close that, and we'll come back over here, and we'll crack open our index.html with VS Code. So there will be, I think there will be a point where you're going to have to do this. Okay, so we're going to have to determine what we want to keep and what we don't want to keep, right? And we're going to have to split this up into React. Luckily, React or JSX and HTML are almost identical. So I can make. So we essentially have this whole Fix Me app, right? So it's going to look like this. We have UL repair list. So I need about this much. So you're going to kind of have to figure out exactly how much of the HTML you're going to need, because you need to make sure I'm capturing the header, which is where the input is. I'm capturing the main section, the UL itself, and then the LIs, which represent one of those list items, right? So I'm just going to grab one LI, because this is kind of all the stuff I need. And we're going to pop on over to here. I'm going to turn this from a stateless functional component into a class type component. Okay, so class app extends React.component. Okay, and we're going to add a method called render. And render is going to return. And I'm just going to paste this stuff. Bloop. Okay, obviously it's not super happy with me. It's got a lot of red lines, and that's okay. Let's fix that. Okay, let's fix that. We've got an indentation problem here. So we'll fix that first. We've got all this reference to class, and wherever it says class, we're going to have to change that to class name. Okay, That's good. And then we're going to have to the reason it's so upset is because I don't have proper closing tags for these things. So I'm going to have to close this UL. I'm going to have to close this section. I'm going to have to close, and I'm going to have to close that outer section there too. And div, li, ul.
Two element. You have to
Big empty array from the beginning and the end.
Yeah.
Not array, sorry, tag.
There we go. Okay. Oh, no, that's still something.
The input is open.
Ah, thank you. There we go. That's one, and this one too. There we go. Yeah, actually, it is only one, so I can just do that. Okay, so actually now this should look a little bit like what we want it to look like, believe it or not. Service worker. Oh yeah, I need to get rid of that. This in here. Service worker and service worker. Okay. There we go. Okay, pretty close. We still have this little thing here. I'm just gonna get rid of that. And that's just this input here. So I don't need this anymore. That's just this input here, this checkbox. Car makes funny sounds. We don't need that anymore. We delete that. It looks like that. And then I think I just went into the app.css and I fixed the padding on it because it has 60 pixels of padding or something like that right here. So I just made it 15. There we go. So this is, there we go, we have a repair list. Okay, it looks exactly the same. Now, obviously, this is going to become all dynamic, right? That's our next step, is to make this all dynamic. Okay, so we're pretty much done with app.js, CSS and app.js. We're going to mainly be working inside app.js right now. Okay, and I'll close the sidebar because we don't really need it right now. We're going to build this all in one component this morning. Okay. So first things first, I think what we should probably do is create a state. Okay. Why don't we, maybe what we should do is let's create state and let's move this li, the data that's inside this li, let's put it in state. And then we have like a starting state. And then we'll do a little bit of stuff to learn, to figure out how to add things to the state, how to grow the state. And once we're comfortable growing the state or adding new repairs to the state, then we'll take that starting data out. We'll remove it. Okay. So we'll start by declaring state. Okay. So the state is going to be declared as a public property. Okay. Up here, state equals, and it's always an object. Okay, so this is always what your state starts as. Always an object. The properties inside the object are up to you. They can be strings, they can be arrays, they can be anything you want, anything you need them to be, but they have to be inside this object. So here we're going to have repairs, right? And we're going to have many repairs, so it's going to be an array. And what does a repair look like? Well, this is a repair right here. What sort of information do we need about a repair? It looks like we need, I don't know, what did we call this before? This is the task, I guess, that needs to get done. Right? So a repair needs to contain, each repair is also going to be an object, right? Because each repair has properties about itself. Okay, so it's probably going to have a task And in this case, we'll say car makes funny sound. And let's give it an ID, okay? And in this case, we could just give it 1, but we're gonna wanna do that other thing where we track the ID on our own. Okay. So cool, now we have a state with repairs in it. So one of the first things we can do is we can actually, instead of doing it like this, we can actually say this dot state dot repairs dot map repair arrow function. Okay, and this guy here, and then we can take this, throw it inside, fix up this indentation a little bit. And say repair, oh, that's weird why it does that. Repair dot task, and up here where it's data-id equals 2, we were using that to, actually we don't need this class name empty, it will automatically add the, we don't need that at all, okay? This data-id equals 2, it's actually key, right? We were using that before to track which one was clicked on and to track the repairs. But because of the way React works, we don't need to track it anymore. Okay, React will track it for us as long as we do everything correctly. Okay, we just need to set this key, and the key will be the repair.id. Okay, so we moved that first one into state, and we converted that HTML into JSX, and then we updated that JSX to now be dynamic instead of static. So it just had static data in there before, right? Like just a piece of text that was written right into the JSX. Now we removed that static data and we've replaced it with dynamic data. So now I can just change this and it will update, right? So if we come over here, it looks identical. But the best part is if I add another repair, okay, I update my state. I can demonstrate by updating my state. Now I get that dynamic, like this is more dynamic, right? Because this is not just this is not just printing out one LI, this is printing out all the LIs, one LI per repair in my state. Any questions so far? Okay, again, just be careful and pay attention to these parentheses here, okay? This is just one of those things that you're going to have to get used to. This is no different than doing this. This is acceptable. Why would we not do this? Because it's really terrible to read. Okay, it works. Come over here, see, it's not broken, it works. It's also the equivalent of doing this. Return with curly braces. Why do we not do that? Because it's really terrible to read. Okay, people prefer to do this. Okay. That's what people prefer because it allows us to get rid of that word return and nicely indent all this stuff together. So we don't have anything here, right? Everything, it's all perfect. So that's what people like. So that's what you're going to see a lot, and that's what you're going to see me do. Okay, and that is prevalent all over React, okay, in an effort for readability. Yeah, like you see right here, right, with this return to. Why don't, let me ask you this. Why do I need a return here, but I don't need a return here? Who can tell me that? Why do I need a return on line 19, but I don't need a return on line 29 and 30?
Because we used curly braces over there.
Correct. Yeah, because up here we're using a curly brace, right? Yes, it's a narrow function, but as soon as we add that curly brace, we have to add return. Can I rewrite this in a different way to be more like this?
Yeah, you can get rid of the return. Use just bracket.
Yeah, absolutely. And that would get rid of this guy here. I think. No. This guy. Actually, there you go.
A semicolon?
No, wait, this is purple. That's that one. Oh, this is the one for the class. There we go. So you can also do that. Okay, so this is, now we're just doing the exact same thing that we're doing there. Okay, and I'm just taking it slow here because you're going to see all sorts of stuff like this. And these will, like you see me messing around with these, like there's so many braces, our code is indented so many times. Like you probably never imagined 3 months ago it would ever be like this. And it's going to get worse. It's going to continue to get like this. And so these are things that we really need to get good at. And we really need to start managing. And if you don't have that bracket colorizer thingy installed, you should install that because it's extremely helpful. Okay. You can also do code folding, which helps you identify where things are indented. What things are going together. So if your brackets are done correctly, then you will get this code folding. If they're not done correctly, code folding won't work properly. So that's kind of a good indication of whether or not everything's done correctly. React is really helpful. VS Code is really helpful because it tells you. But, okay. Any questions on any of that?
I just wanted to clear up something I thought of. Okay, so if we put a semicolon after the closing parentheses in line 39, it will yell at me, right? Because it's it won't?
No, that one's fine. Yeah, that one's fine. If you put a semicolon here, line 35, after the light purple one, it probably will yell at you.
Mm.
Yeah, see, it'll yell at you. If you put one here, so if you put a semicolon in between parentheses, it will yell at you. If you put a semicolon between a parentheses and a curly brace, it's fine. Oh, lies. Okay. Yeah. Semicolons are.
Is that because it's considering that part of parentheses as a function?
It's considering it all one line. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Semicolons get a little bit tricky around here. It's like putting a semicolon in here, right? You don't put a semicolon here.
No. Okay.
So for the curly brackets, let's say if there's a method that has two commands for, let's say for the submit of a form, we will have a set state and a prevent default, right? And for that case, it's not going to be able to wrap them in a bracket, right?
No. So you can only wrap them in a parentheses when you're actually only performing one task, right? So in both of these cases, I'm only performing one task, which is rendering this. In this case, right, line 28, I'm only performing one task, which is render this big LI. Over here, I'm only performing one task, which is render this giant section. So that is okay. But if I have any other things that I need to do, so for like example, if I had any logic that I needed to do, I would have to totally change this because I would have to then go and say, okay, I have logic to do. I can't just return the first thing, okay? I have to, let me undo this stuff here, right? Because my logic would need to occur in this area here. And so that simple parentheses wouldn't work anymore. So if I had to do an if statement or a for loop or figure something out beforehand, that has to go here. And then because I'm doing multiple things, i.e. this return plus logic, I can't use that simple parentheses anymore. It only works when the only thing I'm doing is returning something. Okay. We good? Cool. All right. So we have this. Next thing we need to do, I think, should be manage this form and this input. Okay. So right now we have this input and we can type stuff in and we enter and it reloads the application, right? Not ideal. Okay. Not ideal. First thing we should do is we should capture and manage this input, the values of this input. So we need to control this input, okay? So to control this input, we need to do two things. One, we need to, I think this is actually autofocus. We need to set the value of this component. So value, so we're going to go to this, sorry, not this component, this input. So on this input, we're going to say value equals, and we're going to give it a value. What value is this going to be? Well, the value of the input is going to be a value that we're maintaining in state. We don't currently have that, so we're going to have to add that, okay? So let's add a value for this input in here. What is this called? This is new repair, okay? And actually, it helps a lot, and I'll show you a little trick. It helps a lot if you do name equals, and let's give it a name. Name will be repair input. Okay, let's call that repair input. Then if we take this name and we name our state property the same as that name, this will give us a huge benefit. Okay, I'll show you why. So we're going to say we called it repair input. So let's take that name and also call our state property repair input. And we'll say empty string. Okay, because obviously it starts at empty string. And then over here, the value will be this dot state dot repair input. Okay, it's always good anyways. It's good practice. I know we haven't done this before. It's really good practice to put the name attribute on form inputs. It's something you'll see most of the time anyways. It's never something that we've needed to do. It will be something you will need to do in the back end, actually, okay? In real life, you should have names on your inputs, okay? And so we're now setting the value of this input. But as you can see, now I'm setting the value to empty string. And when I come over here and I start typing, nothing gets typed in because it is constantly forcing a value of empty string into that form, right? Is something happening in there? Yeah, if you were to slow down this computer, like way slower, you'd probably see a character being pushed into it and then removed right away. Pushed into it and removed right away. React is preventing that character from ever showing up by forcing the value of this state to always be empty string. So this is getting a little bit long here, this line 28, in terms of length. So we're going to break it down, okay? And we're going to do it like this. We're just going to do tab and move that in. Okay, so we can better see all these inputs, all these attributes. Okay, I'm not crazy about it, but it's definitely better than the other way. Okay, and the reason why we should do this is because we're going to have one more input. Actually, no, so we don't need. Yes, we do need one more input, right? So if we're pushing the value all the time to this input, we should also be taking the value, we should also be accepting the value from whatever the person types, so we can update the state and then feed it back in to this value. Right, so we need to do one of these. There's two parts to controlling an input. One, we control what goes out, and two, we control what comes in. And so we have the part where we're controlling what goes out, but we're not controlling what goes in. What comes in. Okay, so that's the part we need to take. So we need to accept something when someone does change this input, right? On change, someone does change it. We need to call a function that will update this repair input state based on whatever they typed in here. So we're going to call this, let's call it this, fields update. I don't know if that's a great name, but it's a name. And we will say, we're going to accept E event, right? It can look like this if you wanted it to. Okay, now by putting the name on this element, on this input, we can do this. Hold on for a second. This is a string. How do I do this again? Damn it. Forget.
Repairs.
What's that?
No, sorry. No, sorry. That should be.
Yeah, I know.
Your property for the input value.
I know. I think it's just brackets. Yeah. Okay. So this allows us. Okay. So yesterday, I'll change this again to the correct thing. This is the same as this. Okay, these two are the same. What is the difference though?
Can be reused.
This can be reused. So remember yesterday when we had 3 different fields, we had an email field, we had a name field, and we had an image field, right? And I needed 3 methods, one for each, because their name, the field name, was different. Well, if I had multiple fields here and I gave them all names and I properly set this, put the state property as the same name as the input name that I gave it, then I can use this method for all of them. I wouldn't have to write 3 methods. Okay. So this is better, but we'll use the bottom one for today. Okay, in this course, I don't care which one you use. but line 21 is better. But here we can just say update repair. And down here we'll say update repair. Any questions? So we have this, so this component is now controlled, right? When someone types in a character, it calls this method. This method updates the state. It puts that character into state. When state updates, using the set state, it then re-renders it. This, and then on re-render, this value now contains that character. So when I type in A, and I know it seems like such a weird workaround just to display a letter, but it's not just to display a letter. It's about the concept of a source of truth. The concept of source of truth means this state, the state is the single source of truth for all the information that's being displayed on this website. There is nothing on this website that is being displayed dynamically that is not in state. 100% of everything is being pushed and controlled and managed from the state. Okay, and that is the concept of the single source of truth, and that's what we're trying to achieve. Okay, so state is the source of truth all the time. So we're feeding things into it and we're pulling stuff out of it. The other nice thing about doing it this way is as we put things in, we can also do validations. We can do all sorts of other logic in here. We can check for things. We can, right? We have the ability to do all that if we wanted to, before it goes into state, after it comes out of state, any of those at any time.
John?
Yep.
Is it stricter to use name property name as a property for the input tag?
Yes.
Oh, okay. I was wondering, can I maybe give it a ID and use it in the method, like e.target.id?
No, you should use name. Name is the correct way to do it.
Okay.
That would be an incorrect use of ID. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh baby. Okay. Any other questions? Okay. So next up, we have this form controlled. So we have this input controlled. Next up, we need to do something when someone hits enter, right? You see up here, when I hit enter, the entire page refreshes, right? And that happens because this is a form. But we don't want the entire page to refresh. Instead, what we want to do is we want to take whatever value has been entered into this input, and we want to create a new repair based on that value. So that's our next step. Okay. So I think one of the best things to do to start would be to add an event to this form on submit. When someone submits, do something. And what are we going to do? Well, we're going to take whatever values in this input and we're going to create a new repair out of it. And we're going to update this repair state. We're going to add it to this list of repairs that's in state. So we're going to create a new repair. So let's say create new repair. Okay, and on submit, this dot create a repair. Now, because this is a form, we need to get this E. So sometimes we don't need it. right? Sometimes it's always coming in. It's always being provided, just like it was in JavaScript. It's always being provided. The question is, do we need it? And the answer here was yes, because we need to get the value out of it. And the answer is here, yes, too, because we need to prevent the default. Okay? If I didn't need to prevent default and I wanted to do something else, I would have just done this. Okay, if I didn't need E, it's still giving it to me, but I would only accept it if I needed it. Okay, if I accept it without needing it, if I never used it, that's a little bit misleading to the reader. Okay, so only accept it if you need it. And then what are we doing here? We said that we are going to create a new repair, add it to state. That's what we said we're going to do. Create a new repair, add it to state. Okay. And actually these things happen at the same time. Okay. But let's do one at a time. What does a repair object look like? A repair object is just this, one of these. Okay. It's composed of a task and it's composed of an ID. So this is what we're going to be creating. Where am I getting the value for the task? Where is this coming from?
The
From
input.
text field.
Yeah, from this input, right? But again, the single source of truth is not the text field itself. So I'm never going to go to the text field at this point and ask for the value. Instead, the single source of truth, because the text field is actually just a representation of the data that I have in state, that I've been putting in state. That text field is just a representation of that. So I'm not actually going to go to the text field. Instead, I'm going to say this dot state dot repair input, right? We're going to grab whatever values in here. Now you'll remember I said earlier, if I'm ever doing this dot state to get the previous, whatever's in the current state, then there's a special set state function that I want to use. And that's the functional set state, right? This dot set state. Right? And now we can say, instead of this dot state, it's previous state. Whatever was in there, we're gonna use. And actually, we're gonna say pairs. Oh, okay, so well, let's we'll do this ID after. Okay, the ID will come after. So we have our task coming in from repair input. Now we need to add it to state. So we'll need to clean this up a little bit. We know we need to use this dot set state. Okay. We know we have this correct, but remember, we have to add it to an existing array of state, right? So we have this existing array of state, and it looks like this. So we're going to have repairs. And what is repairs? Well, repairs is an array, and it has an existing array of state that we're going to have to keep. Rev state dot repairs. Right? And doing this copies all of the previous repairs into a new array and assigns them. And then we're going to take this one new one and add it. So we have this one new one that we're adding to all the other ones. We are not modifying state directly. We are creating something totally new. Okay. Questions? This is very common. And last but not least, we're going to manage this ID. And all this ID will be is this dot repair ID plus plus, which doesn't exist. And I'm going to just create it.
Hi, John, I have a question about the ID.
Mm-hmm.
I did the same thing like yours, but when I check it in the Chrome in that extension, my ID was like 1357. I don't know why it's not continue.
Interesting. Let's take a look. It's not really a good way. You're never really doing this. You're not doing this very often, but I don't know. Let's take a look at how this works. Oh, actually, I should get rid of these repairs to start. We'll start with an empty list of repairs. Oh. Oh yeah, 135. I don't know why. That's a great question.
Oh, I'm at the same problem. When I console log, it auto twice.
I wonder if it, yeah, I don't know. I really don't know. Huh. I wonder if this is being executed twice because it's being run here in this line, and then it, there's this, one of the reasons why we're not supposed to set state directly is because of a feature of React that React batches state updates together. So sometimes it doesn't do this right away. It will wait until it has enough state update stuff, and then it will do it all together. Now, in this case, whether this is the only state update we're doing, but this makes me wonder if this line is being executed now and then again later by React when it manages its state properly. So that's interesting, and I would definitely ask Stack Overflow about that. I'm going to actually and find out, because that's very curious. It's fine, totally fine in this case, but I can see that leading to a source of bugs. It's very, very interesting. Huh.
In this case, it's fine because we just want a unique ID generated, so it'll still be unique, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. But if we were saying, if we're counting users, or if we're actually counting something that mattered, it would not be okay. So I would have to, I'm very curious. I would take a look at that. Oh, I bet you can do this though.
I think that would be better.
Oh, actually, I wonder, you can, I bet you can do this. This would be, I bet you this would be better.
Well, I think it doesn't need to add ID in this repair list, because we only use ID in the key. So we
That's
can
what you need, something unique.
Yeah.
What else can you use?
We in the repair list, you use the name and the ID. Is that right?
Yeah.
So you put the ID in this repair, and recall it in the key. The key equals the ID. We don't need to import this ID. We just use this repair ID in the key.
Yeah, but then where does the ID come from?
Up the stairs. Yeah.
No. You can't do that.
Just this repair ID.
No, you. Well.
In the key.
Every time. I don't know. That's definitely not what I would do. That's definitely not a good way to do it. I would be very concerned about that. So you're saying just say this.id ++ here.
Yeah. This dot repair ID, not ID. Repair ID.
Yeah. Okay, so we'll take a couple looks at some different ways. This is not, again, I'm diverging here. Okay. I think, but this is probably what I would do. Because this set state is a function, the only thing that matters is what I'm returning. I can do all sorts of stuff before. And so I'm going to try this.
Sorry. Instead of use an incremented operator, maybe it's a good idea to use in the old way. So this repairs ID equal to this repair ID +1.
Oh, it's the same thing.
Well, it's not.
Oh, sorry. This is sure +1. Yeah.
Yeah, because the issue is that with the
way, we still have to increment this. That's the problem. That's the problem. Is we still have to increment it. So like,
but now it's
I can say, what's that? No, now it's not working. Right. We look at the repairs, ID1, 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 ID1. Right. So, but we could do this start repair ID ++, and then this dot repair ID. I don't know if this will make a difference, but I'm curious. Is
there any embodied method that can generate a random number, which is unique?
Yeah, there's a GUID method. Yeah, there's a GUID method. Oh, this has many other better solutions. I'm just more or less interested in why this is happening and how I can work around it. That's pretty much why I'm interested. I think I could do.
The reason is because you are operating this attribute, this state, this case.
I'm not sure about that. It's because I'm putting it inside of this set state. If I put it outside of set state, it works perfectly fine. It's interesting.
Maybe the copy.
Yeah.
Similar happened too. When I've passed like ++ in like an argument for a function, I've seen that happen too.
Yeah, I'm gonna dig into exactly what the life cycle is on this thing, like why it's doing it twice. I mean, whatever, it's managing it properly. Like React knows what the heck it's doing. It's just nice to know why it would execute that twice.
I just searched on Overflow. It says something about ++ operator in the set state is asynchronous. It accepts a callback as the second argument, which gets triggered when the state has been updated. So like +2.
That's what I thought. So it gets executed now, and then it gets executed when the state actually updates. So it ends up doing it twice. That's what I thought. Yeah, because it's asynchronous. Because this is not actually happening now on line 13. This is going to happen whenever React feels like it should run this, which is in the next few seconds, right? But it batches set state together with other set states. Little bit of a tangent there, but yeah, that's what I thought. So I would do this in advance. I would not do this. I wouldn't do that. We would end up with even if I took this off. Let's do that. And then if we look at our elements here, where are our, oh, because we can't, right? These are not components, so we can't look at them. We can't even see their keys. Yeah. I wouldn't do that though, definitely not. I wouldn't trust to do any of that sort of work inside here, inside render. Because render can happen so many times. And then what ends up happening is it adds one new thing, and the numbers jump by 10. It's okay. Okay, so we're gonna go with this anyways. Okay. And last but not least, so there's obviously, we can add new stuff, great, okay? But as you can see, this is not clearing out, right? This form is not clearing out after I submit it. Which is what should happen. After I submit, it should clear out that form. And so I should add to this set state, I need to update repair input as well. Not just repairs. I'm not just adding something to repairs. I'm also modifying the input. So I need to say, comma, repair input equals empty string. I need to reset that. So this is what my new state is going to look like. Right? Like this. That's my new state. So now when I come over here and I type it in and I hit enter, it empties it out. Finally, I've got one more thing to do, and that is this X. Right? When we click this X, get rid of that repair. So we're going to come over to this button, destroy, and we're going to add a on click. And on click, we are going to remove this dot remove repair. Doesn't exist. Let's go write it. So the function, the method, remove repair. Remove repair. This. Okay. Which repair are we going to remove? Well, let's pass back the entire repair object, right? We have the entire repair object right here. So let's pass it into that function, and then we can compare it to all the ones in state, and whichever one that it matches, perfect. We can also do this by ID, but I mean, it doesn't really matter at this point. Okay, so we have to put parentheses on it, and we need to pass the repair. But remember, I can't put parentheses directly on it, otherwise it's going to invoke it, and none of this will work. So I need to wrap this in a function, an anonymous function. Now, when I'm removing the repair, I actually get the repair that I want to remove. And I can then do the same thing here. Pretty much. Set state. Instead of repair input, I don't need to empty that because I'm removing a repair. Okay. And I don't need, this is growing the previous list of repairs. I don't want to expand it. I want to reduce it. So I need to take the previous state of repairs and I need to say filter. Get rid of or many repairs. In this case, only one. Which one do I want to remove? I want to remove the the repair element that matches. So I want it, so better yet, which ones do I want to keep? All of them that don't match the one that I want to remove. That's what I need to do. Do not, so keep all the repairs that don't match the one repair that I want to remove. Those are the ones that I'm keeping. Okay, and you'll notice I did something a little bit different here previously, but let's go back to that other way so you get to see both. Okay, because this is how you'll see a lot of it written. And this is actually just this. Right, we're returning. This is the same as this. This is pretty much the same as this sort of syntax here. And so we're filtering out that one repair. And then click, click, click. And that's it. There you have it. Questions? Something that you wanted me to review? Something that doesn't make sense to you?
Can I ask some question about yesterday class?
Mm-hmm.
How can we get the state object from another component?
So you can't reach into another component and grab it. The only thing that it can do is broadcast it up to you. And that's only if it's a parent. So today, again, what I'm going to be asking you to do is I'm going to be asking you to move these things, move this header component to its own component. And then it is going to have its own state. And it's going to broadcast the state up to its parent. And it does that via function call, right? Remember, we can provide the child with a function to use. And if we provide that child with a function to use, it uses that function and it can add its own arguments. And that's how we receive it back. I'll see if I can do a demo of that today. Okay, I will do a demo of that today. So you see, I think. Yeah, let's try that.
Could we try that double plus instead of that? Could we try like +1 after repair ID?
This?
Yeah.
This won't work.
This
is always going to print 1.
Because it's not giving the value to your repair ID. So
yeah, it's not incrementing it. It's always 0. It's always coming in as 0, and we're just adding 1 to it. That's all it is. So it's always going to be 1.
Okay, I shouldn't trust overflow guys too much. They said this might work. I don't know.
This might work? I would definitely not try a this might work answer.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh, he actually says it will work. But okay.
Okay. Well, we could try it. If this works.
Yeah, just for fun.
Okay, just for fun. If this works, I have no idea. Black is white. Okay. Yeah, same. So you can see the same ID.
Wrong.
Again, right? 111.
Thank you.
Yep. Okay. So I'll see if I can redo that moving a component into its, moving some JSX into its own component, and then bringing that and passing data around. Okay. I'll see if I could do that again today, because I am asking you to do it tonight and this weekend as an exercise. You do have that video from yesterday, okay, that has all the information in it. Yes, it's confusing, but if you rewatch it now, it'll probably be way less confusing if you understand now how we add event listeners and manage state. Okay, hopefully. Let's take a break and let's come back in 15 minutes. So let's come back at 20 after, and we'll take a look at the next topic, which is dealing with APIs, how we deal with APIs in React. Okay, we'll see you in a bit. Okay, solution's been pushed. All right, so today we are going to look at dealing with, it's not really API stuff, but it kind of is. So let me pull up my in-class sample. So we're going to keep working on our, yep, this is the one I want, our contact stuff. Okay, I've made a small change to it, and I'll show you what that is right away. Start. Okay, so I reverted back to just the filtering out of contacts from yesterday.
John.
Yeah.
I joined a little late this morning. Can you let me just record this portion?
Sure.
Thanks. Apparently, I woke up and turned my alarm off and went back to sleep, my girlfriend says, but I don't remember that at all.
It sounds like someone's messing with your head. I bet you she probably drugged you.
I think so, too.
That's what I would do.
We should get to the bottom.
That's what I would say. Yes,
yes. You know, I heard in the background. I did not.
Okay. So I reverted back yesterday. So yesterday, end of day, I was like, here, let's create a new contact. Blah, let's like show all these extra fields in there. I scaled all that back. We're just here. I added 2 icons in. I added this little magnifying glass icon, and I added this little link over here in the corner. What do you think this link might do when I click on it?
Adds a new contact?
Yeah, adds a new contact. Adds a new contact. In the future, we're going to click on that, and it's going to bring us to a screen where we fill in like the contact information, hit enter, and it'll bring us back here, and the new contact will be added. That's what we're going to do on Monday. But for today, it's just going to be a button that when we click on it, a new contact's going to be added. Okay, just all the stuff's going to be in there. So the thing that we're going to do today is we're going to talk about component lifecycle. Okay, and how we can tap into that to load data into our application from like an API, right? In our previous course, we did a lot of preloading of data. So if you think about that movies exercises or assignment that we did, where we go and we have movies that are being preloaded. We're pulling in movies from OMDB or the movie DB as soon as the page loads, and then as soon as those movies are available, we put them on the page, right? Do you remember that? Please tell me you remember that. Okay. Just to give you, your reaction was a little bit sad, so I'll refresh your memory by popping back in here and showing you this demo of something, of work that you would have done. No. Let's go with exercise 8. Here. Trending movies. Do I not have a sample? Assignment 1. No, assignment 1 was I don't even have a sample for you. No, I don't even have a sample for you. Well, trust me, you did it. Anyways, loading up data as soon as the page loads. Yeah, you did all that. Doesn't matter. Okay. So today we're going to figure out how to do that here. Okay, we're going to figure out how to do that with React, because right now it's not super obvious, right? Obviously, that we know the one thing that happens when components render is we know the one thing that happens when components render is when React runs is components get rendered right at the start. And so we want to have these things in state so that way we can iterate over them and create the components, and that means they'll display, right? But what if I wanted, instead of putting contacts in state here manually, what if I wanted to load these contacts from somewhere else, from like an API somewhere? Instead of contacts, what if these were movies? And I wanted to load up an array filled with movies and then display them. And I want that to happen as soon as the user arrives on the page. Okay, so there is actually what is called a life cycle, and a lot of frameworks or libraries have life cycles. A life cycle is there are certain things, certain functions that get called in a certain order when components get rendered. Okay, so for example, every component in React has a function that gets called, if it exists, called component, and you can actually see it. Okay, component did mount. Okay, so there is a this is a pre-existing name. Okay, we can't make up this name. This name already exists, but we can tap into it. So if we put a function in our class, or a method in our class called component did mount, it will get called immediately after render gets run. Is it after or before? It doesn't really matter in this case. Let me double check. It's in the reading. You actually would have already read this, React.js.
Yeah, it's after.
It's after? After. So if it'll say, here, I'll show you anyways, state and lifecycle. So down here at lifecycle, adding lifecycle methods to a class. So the component did mount method runs after the component output has been rendered. Okay, so why would we, and so this is the method where we're going to go out and get contacts. So I'm going to go and make an API call in this method here. Now, if this happens after the render occurs, why would this be a good place to do it? And the answer is, well, when I get those contacts back, I'm going to use them and push them into the state, right? I'm going to push them into this array. When I do that, the component will re-render. So what this does is it allows the user, it presents the user with information first. That way, right, we're not waiting on that fetch to occur. The fetch can happen behind the scenes. The user's already been presented with this component through this render. Once this fetch comes back and the context gets updated, the components re-render. Let me show you how it works. It's actually really simple, okay? Once you see it in action, it'll all make sense. Like I said, today's not a hard day. All we have to do is tap into this method called component did mount. It exists on any React component. We just have to put it in there. And then we can say fetch, then. Now, where are we going to fetch these things? Well, I just happen to have an API. Oh, what's that API I used? I used it yesterday. API users. Is this one? No.
Random user?
Random user generator? Yeah, this one. Random user generator. We use this one, remember? And the documentation had the little thing on it. And I wanted to get multiple users, this one. Right, and we'll just set the results to, let's say 10. We're gonna go get 10 random users, okay? And then we're going to do our standard API stuff. Nothing special, rest.json. JSON, right? And inside here, we're gonna have to push all these contacts into state. Okay, this is what we're gonna have to do at some point. We're gonna have to say, at some point, right? Not right now. I'm just gonna write this line out. So we're kind of keeping it in the back of our minds. We're gonna have to say contacts is equal to my new array of contacts. Now I'm gonna build up an array of contacts. What you don't wanna do is, I'll show you what you don't wanna do. Okay. So we're gonna essentially get to here, where we're going to add all the contacts that we got to this contacts array. The easy way to do it is, let's start by just console logging, like our traditional stuff, console log JSON, and let's see what we get back. So what's going to happen here is actually this page is going to load. There are no contacts in here because I deleted them all like an idiot. So we're just going to have an empty page, no contacts, a search bar on the top, but we will get the console log of the JSON that we're getting back from that API, okay? Which, see, I'm never calling this method itself myself. React will call it for me automatically, just like React calls render automatically, right? Where this is just something that happens. React, part of the React lifecycle of a component is do this, then do this, then do this, call render, then call component did mount, okay? And if we come over here, you'll see no contacts. If I inspect this, I get this object. This is the console log. Open it, results 10. I can just stick this result directly into state if I wanted to. But the problem with that, the way I see it, is this contains so much information that I don't care about. And like, that's totally fine. I can totally change how all this stuff works to deal with that if I wanted to. And actually, that would be the easiest way. But I do want to show you how we transform the stuff coming in. Okay, and we're used to this. We've done this already many times in our API course. The data that it gives us is not the way that we want it displayed. We need to massage it. We need to manage it. And so I want to create contacts that contain the same properties that they did before. And the properties that they contained is name, email, and avatar URL. So that's the sort of objects that I want to create. I want to create objects that have name, email, and avatar URL. Okay. So I'm going to start pulling out the data in here from JSON.results, because that's where it came from, over here, JSON.results. And I'm going to start pulling it out and figuring out which pieces of information I need, creating objects, putting them in an array, and then finally assigning that array to set state. So we're going to say JSON.results.for each. Okay, and this is a, we're going to loop through every contact in there, or every user, whatever you want to call it. Let's call it a user here, so that way we get some sort of differentiation of naming. Okay, and we're going to start with an empty array of users or contacts. Okay, so we'll say new array of contacts. And we're going to say new array of contacts.push. And we're going to create a new user out of it that has this format. So the name is going to be user, so name is going to be user dot first name. Is it first name? User dot name dot first, user dot name dot last. Okay, so we'll say this. User dot name dot first space user dot name dot last. Oh, no, comma. So we're building an object here. Yeah.
So at this point, we're still writing JS. It's not JSX yet that we're taking in, right?
No, we're just building objects. The only real time that we're writing JSX
Render.
most of the time is in our render. Yeah.
Yeah.
And what else we got? We got email. And I don't know why I did that. Email is user.email, I think. Oh, I can't see it anymore. It got destroyed because my stuff isn't working. So I'll pop over to here. User.email. And then I think I have, oh, I also want it, see, I have an ID. That's the other bonus I get out of this. I don't have to do that weird ID generation. It gives me an ID. Let's add that. User.id.value. See, like I said, you don't always have to create your own IDs. A lot of the data that you're going to get in, just like all those bus calls, all those IMDb calls, all that stuff, they all come in with IDs. So you don't have to create your own. And then name, email, and avatar URL. So we need that image. And that, I believe, is user.picture.large. So I'm iterating over all the results, pushing for each one of them. I'm pushing a new object into new array of contacts. And then finally, at the end, I set my state. Why don't I set my state each time through instead of creating this new array of contacts? Why don't I just push this right onto state every time? Better question. Why don't I do this?
Because it will render every time. and outside it's only render one time.
Correct. So why don't I do this? The answer is because it would, if I put set state inside of this loop and I pushed one on to the state at a time, every time I added a new one, it would re-render every time. And so instead of doing that, I'm saving all of them. I'm creating a structure and I'm saving it to perform this update all at once, because every time you set state, it will re-render. So if I've got 100 users that I'm looping over and I put set state in front of here and I'm calling set state 100 times, I'm going to re-render this component 100 times. Little inefficient. Now it's not going to look like that to the user, but it is like that in real life.
Hey, John.
Yeah.
I think that's similar to the way React works as well. Like we're kind of waiting and batching it instead of rendering one by one.
Now I do wonder if React would batch it for us if we did it in here, but there's no reason why you would need to. I would just do it like this. Yeah, but yeah, that's exactly what we're doing. We're batching it up.
Okay.
We're creating something, and then we're going to put it all together, and we're going to do it all at once.
Okay.
And here we go. And nothing. I'm missing. What does it not like? What do you not like about this? Parsing our unexpected token.
Do we need a return there?
It's in the state.
No, I don't.
It's in the state.
Oh, it's in the state. Oh, yeah, thank you. Okay, I left this junk in there. And there we go. The key is not coming in properly because I added the key now, so it's got a key of null. Contact.id. Did I not call it ID? User.id.value. Let's take a quick look at what my IDs are here. Components. Key. Oh, one of them is null. Really? That's very interesting.
Inconsistent API, maybe?
Yeah, inconsistent data coming from the API. I would then, I mean, we can, that's very interesting. I mean, that's just bad data coming from the API. I'll do IP, I bet you if I refresh this page, I wouldn't have that problem again. Oh yeah, now there's 5 of them. Let's go with, it has a name. And we'll put name plus value. Interesting. I never had that problem yesterday. There's probably something else you can use in here. I'm going to use login. I'm just going to use phone. I'm sure no 2 people have the same phone number. That wouldn't be impossible. 2 people could live at the same address and have the same phone number or share a phone. But just for this case, because there we go. Get rid of that error. Okay, here we go. There we go. That's all we're doing today.
And John?
Yeah.
Could you remove the curly braces now? Because it's just the one item or.
Oh yeah. I can move all this.
Great.
And everything still works, right? The only difference is instead of putting stuff in state to start with, like manually, I'm loading the state from somewhere else. But the rest of the project still works. So this, M, right? My filter, nice. Gone. They're not actually, I'm not actually removing them from here. I'm removing them from state. So they don't exist in state anymore. Now, they all come back when I refresh the page, because a refresh of the page is like brand new application. Okay, so really, none of this is really new. We got to call a function called component and mount. We have to name it component and mount. We do our regular fetch in there. And then once we figure out exactly what we want, we set our state. Try to do it one time, try to batch it all together. And that's it. And we push whatever stuff that we wanted, that we got back from that API call, we're probably going to be pushing it into state. Now, if you want to push it directly into state, I could have just said, this dot set state contacts JSON dot results. And that would have just pushed the 10 users directly into state. But then I would have had to change what I call all these things, because I know they're no longer called props.contact.name. It'd be props.contact.name.first, props.contact.name.last, right? It would be all that junk that would have been all, like I would have gotten all this stuff in there, which is fine. Like if that's what you want, that's fine. It just depends on what you're trying to do, what you want, what your goal is, right? So for me, I didn't want all that stuff. So I wanted to transform it a little bit. So I did a little transform here. Questions?
I feel like I understand like the idea around React, like it's a class, state is basically a constructor, a bunch of methods.
Yeah, you're not far off. It's got a little bit of magic happening, but you're not that far off, which is why understanding the class stuff is so important.
Yeah, and the new syntax, and I'm thoroughly confused.
Yeah, the syntax, you can always revert back to your normal syntax, like to the syntax that you're comfortable with the regular braces and stuff. Totally, it all works, right? That all works. It's just a lot of people don't use that. And so the stuff that you'll read is not in line with what you're doing. And that's okay, right? You don't have to do it in the same way that you read it, as long as you understand it, right? As long as you understand the weird braces and like how we're essentially cheating the system a little bit. As long as you understand that, that's fine. You don't have to do it like that, but as long as you understand it.
So I could still write it exactly the way we've been.
Yeah, you don't need to do these weird braces. Like if you want to get rid of this parentheses after the return, fine. You just have to make sure that you put this on the line and with it. And then it's ugly, but it's treated all as one thing.
Doesn't that only mean that you're only returning one thing though?
No, I am only returning one thing. One big JSX object. That's what I'm returning, right? It's still just one thing. It's just, you think of it as though it's all on one line. We're just putting it on separate lines to be easier to read. That's it. But you have to treat it as though it's it is a big piece of JSX. Treat it like returning one giant string. So I've got a couple other things I want to show you. Okay. This is the main piece that I want to show you, but there's a couple of little sub pieces that I get worried that when I ask you to do it on the assignment, you'll be like, well, you never showed us. So I'm going to show you, and which is why I added this plus button. So I want this button to add a new contact. Okay, so we are currently pulling in 10 contacts to start with. When I push this button, what I want to happen is I want to go and do another API call to here, go get one user and add that user to state. That's what I want to happen. Any ideas in how I might, like the steps that I might take to do that? You have all the information.
Event handler.
Okay, so I need to add an event handler to that button. Okay, so I have this button here, right here, the add contact button. So I'm going to add an event handler. So let's say on click, this dot add contact. Doesn't exist yet, but we'll create it. So let's go create that. This dot add, or not this dot add contact. Okay, now what?
Do the same thing like before.
Yeah, fetch.
Do a fetch. Yeah, do a fetch.
Results equals 1.
Yeah, results equals 1. I can actually still do this exactly. The only difference, yeah, results equals 1. Actually, if I don't put results, it only sends me back 1 anyways. I don't really need to create a new array. I can just simply create a single user. So let's just call it new user. Okay. I don't really need to do a for each, although I technically could. I'm essentially saying, actually, let new user equals, and then this part here. And this is, instead of, it's JSON dot results, and it's probably 0. Dot name dot first.
Can
and
we
we'll
still use dot results when the fetch address doesn't have any results?
So that's interesting. So you would want to check to see if you have results first. Yeah, for sure. Right. Like there would be a lot of these things. I'm leaving out validation of data, right? This whole course, the whole 4 months, I leave out validation of data. Like, are we getting what we expect to get? You saw nulls in those IDs. That the way I'm handling it, I'm just saying, oh, just use the user phone number. No, that's not a good way. I'm using that because I don't want to deal with that today right now. Right? I want to focus on what I'm trying to teach you. But yeah, you need to validate your data. Do they all have IDs? Did I even get users back? Right? What if I don't get users back? What do I do? But we're not going to do that in this course. Okay, so create my new user, and then I need to add my new user to state. And I do this in the same way that I add anything else to state. It's the same pattern, right? I already have a bunch of contacts in state. So I need to add that new one to the end. And I can't push because I'm not allowed to. I'm not allowed to modify state. And so that same pattern emerges. Retrieve state, arrow function. This, that, this, that, contacts equals retrieve state, dot, 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 dot contacts, all the contacts that were there previously, plus new user, the new contact. I guess new contact would be better. oh, yeah. There we go. Okay. Same pattern. We've done this like 7 times already. Okay. This is how we generally add something new onto state, a new item. Modifying an item is very different. Adding a new item is very simple. Okay. And we'll save that. And come back here. Let's delete a bunch of users here so we can actually see if this works. Click. And ooh. Oh, why did that happen? Why did the page refresh when I click this? You see the page refreshing?
Event prevent default?
Yeah, it's a link, an A tag. A tags also have defaults and they cause page refreshes. They can cause page refreshes. In React apps, apparently they do. So we're gonna have to prevent that default. So we're gonna capture E. And we're gonna say E.prevent default. And that should fix it. So we're just able to add more users like that. Okay, we can add whatever functions we want in here. It's not a problem. It's no big deal. Okay. Okay. Questions. Now I promised, so this is it for the day. That's all I really have. I'm going to cover more stuff because I want to review some stuff, but as far as new material goes, this is it. Okay.
So are we doing the separate components thing?
Yeah. Now I'm going to do that now. Yeah. I'm going to review that again. Okay. So that's not new. This is review now. I just want to make sure we have a clear separation of stuff. Okay. So no questions on this. Pretty straightforward, right? This is, so component did mount your life cycle. When you want to do something right at the beginning, component did mount. If you want to do something in the middle, you can just add a new function and do fetch in it. And as long as you're updating state, the page will re-render. And all the components with this component and everything else that needs to re-render will re-render. React knows what to do. React knows what to do. Trust React. Okay.
Oh, sorry. Did you invoke the previous function, any method? Sorry. Anywhere? No, not this
contact.
The previous one.
This one?
Yeah.
No.
Oh, okay. So it will automatically load.
React automatically invokes it for us. Yeah, it's part of the life cycle. Just like I don't need to invoke render ever. React automatically does it. I don't need to invoke component did mount. React automatically does it.
Okay, but for other methods, if you assign it to like a event listener, they won't be.
No, these ones, yeah. No, these ones I have to invoke. There's only a handful of methods that React automatically invokes. Okay, you can read the only one I care about in this course is component did mount and render. Those are the only two. There's a 7 or maybe 10 or 12, but those ones I don't care about. But you can read about them in the documentation if you want.
So that's a special name.
Yeah, this is a special name.
Okay.
Yeah. If you want to see all of them, you have to go to API reference, component, and then lifecycle, component lifecycle. So mounting, here are special methods, constructor render, component did mount, component did update, should component update, component will unmount. There's so there's a variety of methods. actually, here's all of them. Component did mount, component did update. Tells you all about them. But this is like deep in the API reference, not in the main concepts. We're following main concepts. And the only one you need to know is inside handling state and lifecycle, and it's just component did mount. That's it. Okay, so as requested, review of moving some of this stuff to its own component. Okay, so we are going to move this query. Oh, this is pretty tricky. Let's add this add contact method to its own component. This would be a stateless component. Okay, I could move this list contacts top to its own component, but that gets really interesting. Let's see. Just give me a second here to think about what would be the best. I feel like I need to show you two things. I want to show you this, and I think if I asked you to modify something, so we've done a lot of adding to state and removing from state, but we haven't done a lot of modification of state. And that's like, it's different. Again, it's a different approach. So let's do this. So I'm going to make it so when you click on a image, it will turn off the image. It will delete the image, okay, of the user. That's what it'll do, okay? It'll set the image to empty. Okay, so this gives us a couple of little pieces that we can work on. Okay, so I'll be able to show you how to modify state, and I'll be able to show you how we can pass state around. Okay, oh, except the fact that it won't have its own state. Oh, sometimes it's really hard to set up stuff like this, but all right, we'll try this. Okay, so when I click on an image, so we have a contact already, right? Contact does not have its own state, unfortunately. So we have an avatar. We're going to add an on-click to the avatar. This just won't work. This just won't work. But I need to show you this anyways. Okay, so this is going to be separate. We're going to add an on-click to this avatar. And we're going to say props.update avatar, and we're going to have to pass in. Okay, so what's going to happen is over here in app, we're going to, because this is where the state, the contact state lives. And so this, where the contact state lives, is where we need to have the function that will modify the state. So if we wanted to add to this state, or we wanted to remove from the state, the function that adds, removes, or modifies the state needs to exist in the component where the state exists. Does that make sense? If the state's here, we can't modify this state from down here. We can't do it. So the function that needs to modify the state needs to exist here. So we're going to write that function. How do we modify the picture of a contact? What we'll do is we'll write that function. I'll show you how to modify it, and then we'll provide that function to the contact who needs it, because they're the ones who has the on-click event. That's essentially what we're going to do. We're going to pass that function down to them so they can use it. Okay. So, but the function needs to exist up here. So it's going to look like this.
Don?
Yeah.
Would we consider it a method? Since we're
it's actually a method. Yeah, it's actually a method. Yeah. So update, what did I call it? Update avatar. Update avatar. So to update the avatar of a contact, we need to know which contact we're updating. So we're going to have to accept that as a parameter. So we'll assume that it's passing us the entire contact so we know which one. So because we cannot modify state directly, what we need to do is we need to go find that contact in state, copy all the stuff from that contact into a new object, because we're not allowed to modify that one object. It's crazy. We are not allowed to. So we need to find the contact in the existing state, make a clone of it, change the attribute, or change the properties that we care about of the clone, filter out the old original contact from state, replace it with the clone. Okay, so imagine this. You're in a world where you cannot change any person. What you do is you go find the person you want to change, you make a clone of them, you change the clone, then you remove the person and you insert the clone. There can only ever be one person, right? And so we have to kill the old person. This is very Rick and Morty-ish, okay? So this is what we have to, what's that?
Did you watch the last one?
The last one, yeah. The only good one of the second half of the season was the Vat of Acid one, in my opinion.
You like the Vat of Acid one?
I thought it was great. I thought it was classic. Classic Rick and Morty, yeah. I
like the latest one with
God?
With Rick's kids or whatever.
Yeah, it was funny, just not my favorite. So we're going to do this .set state, and we're going to do all of this inside of this set state function, because we need to find the contact in the existing state or find the contact in the previous state, same thing, okay? And because it's a function, we could do a bunch of work in it, as long as in the end, we're returning the new state. That's our goal. Inside the set state function, the functional set state, at the end of the road, we have to return what the new state is going to look like. We can do all sorts of work to figure out what that new state is going to look like, which is what we do have to do, okay, when we're modifying state, when we're modifying an object in state. So we're going to do all this work, but at the end, we're going to return new state. So find the contact in the previous state. Let existing contact equals previous state dot contacts dot find contact element equals contact element blah, contact element equals contact, the contact that we're passing in. So we have this one, right? This is the one that we're looking for. So go loop over all the elements, find the one that matches, and that's the existing contact. Okay, cool, we found it. Now we need to duplicate it. Now, this can be done more efficiently in fewer lines of code, but I'm gonna be very obvious here, okay? Duplicated or cloned contact. How do I clone something? How do we clone an object?
Triple dot.
Triple dot. So put it in a empty object, triple dot, and we take the previous one. Boom, that clones it. So now we have a cloned version of it. We put it through the cloning machine. Okay, this is the cloning machine. This cloned contact and this existing contact are technically not the same ones, but they are perfect perfect clones of each other, but they're not the same one. So I'm not allowed to modify this guy, this one on line 14, because it is currently in state. And I'm not allowed to modify state, but I can do whatever the heck I want to this one because this one is not in state. So I did this, find the previous, make a clone, change the properties of the clone. What did I say I wanted to do? Get rid of the avatar URL, blank out the avatar URL. Cloned contact dot avatar URL equals empty string. Great, got rid of it. Okay. Again, yes, I know I can do this in fewer lines of code, but I'm going to be super obvious here. Okay. Change the properties of the clone. Done. Filter out the old original contact from state. Okay, remember, I need to create a new state. So what I need to do is I need to create a brand new state without changing the old state. So my new state is going to be all the contacts from the old state minus that one that I want to change, because I'm not allowed to modify him. So I have to destroy him and replace him with a clone. Okay. So we're going to say previous state dot filter, because this will create a new array. This does not modify the current state. Contacts, and go find all the contacts, this time except for the one. That is the one that we're talking about. So copy them all over except for this one. And that's my new state. My except, we're missing one piece. Return contacts, colon. We can push, and then we can push my new state. My cloned contact on. So I removed the original one, and I'm replacing it with the cloned one. And now contact equals my new state. And this can sometimes be what it takes to modify a single element, a single property. Adding to state and removing from state, those are easy. Modifying state, that's the tricky part. Okay.
On line 16.
Yeah. Line 16?
Yeah,
oh, contacts, yeah.
And I have a question that since you push the modified contact to the cloned array, if let's say we click the first one in our context, then it will show up in the last when it's re-rendered. Will that?
Oh yeah, you're very right. Okay, so that's a very good. That's a very very good thought. So you're right. So let's take a look here. My new state.
Let.
Oh yeah, thanks. Yeah. Okay. So the thing is, if I click on this, it's going to move this person because I remove them, I change it, and then I put them at the end. Or it's just not going to work at all. No errors. Oh, I know why. I'm not passing in. Remember, I said I have to pass in the contact. And I'm not even passing in this update avatar down to my contact here, over here. Right, so I have to pass that down as props. Okay, contact, update avatar equals this dot update avatar. And then down here, on click update avatar, I need to pass my contact to it props.contact. However, I can't do this because I need to wrap it in a anonymous function in order to put parentheses on it so I can pass something back. Update avatar is not a function. Props.update avatar. Update avatar, this.update avatar.
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 E.
You put E.
E.
Yeah. Whoa, that's crazy. Let's try that again. Click. Previous state filter is not a function. Previous state.contacts.filter. Previous state.contacts.
Does that happen because previous state's an object, right? So you
can't call filter on it. Yeah. But contacts is an array. So you're right. So see, it moved it. So now if I scroll down to the bottom, this person's at the bottom. So what you would typically want to do, I should go find that.
Sorry.
Oh, go ahead. What were you going to say?
I think the steps might be changed. The first one is to copy the previous context, and the second one is to find for each to find which is the contact and to change the avatar URL.
No, you can't do that. Copying the previous contacts is not a deep copy. It's a shallow copy. So even if I copied all the contacts, I can't go in and change them individually. Let me pop over to that link I sent you. Exercise, was that readings for class 2? Readings for class 3. No. Readings for class 1. Did I just post it in Discord? They have a very specific way of doing it. Where was it?
Yeah, what about to find the index? And then I remember there's a method for a way to insert something in place.
Because you want to slice. That's exactly what it was. Where did I post that?
In class 3, John, reading for next class.
Tips for updating complex objects in state. And like, you will need to do this. You will 100% need to do this. Simplest one, using the spread, nested state, updating nested state object. This is what we're doing. So we are, it's this. We're doing something like this, where we're finding all the previous ones, okay? And then we need to, the simplest one using the spread, it doesn't actually cover this. But we need to do this. We need to find the one that we want, copy all the other values over. Yeah, we need to find all the other ones before. We need to find where this one is. Not just find it, but find the index of it. Then we need to copy, when we're doing this piece here, we need to copy all the ones up to that spot, insert that one, and then add the other ones at the end. So it looks like this. Okay, so this will give us the index of it. Then we can say, we can still clone it. We can do all this stuff. So existing contact index. And this, so it's previous state. Contacts. Existing contact index. Right, so this will go, this is that one element. It's cloned. Right, now we can do all the stuff that we need to. We filter it out, no problem. Okay. But now we don't want to just push it onto the new one. What we want to do is we want to build the next state to look like this. An array that has all the previous contacts, but only up to a certain point, right? Only up to a certain point. Splice. Wait, we should just be able to splice it out actually, instead of filter, right? Yeah. Sorry if I'm getting confusing on you. I forgot about this. Splice allows us to remove and add at the same time in a JavaScript array, right? Add items to an array. So the splice method adds, removes items from an array and returns the removed items. So it changes the original array, which is fine. We have a new clone of the array called myNewState. So we don't want to filter. What we want to do is we want to splice. We know where the contact that we want to remove exists. It exists at this index, right? We went to go find that index. We cloned it. We have the cloned contact. We set the URL. Now we need to splice up this array. Okay, so myNewState is going to be, myNewState is going to be a copy of the previous ones. And we're going to, so we have a copy of the state, the previous state. Now we need to myNewState dot splice. So we need to indicate where we start to splice. Where are we going to splice? And that is at this point. We're going to splice starting here, that index where that one was. We're going to remove one element and we're going to add one element. Yeah, that's better. So splice says, and you've used splice before, okay? Go to the place that we want and remove a number. So go here and remove this many, and then add this one in, right at that spot. So now, when we click on an image, it doesn't push them to the bottom anymore. Because push pushes it to the end of the array. Shift pushes it at the beginning. And so neither of them are really good. We don't want to change the position of this contact. And so we want to, and that's why we need to do this like complicated way of doing it, because we want to make sure we're putting it back in at the exact same spot. Okay. So go find the index of the element. Modify the attributes. Finally set it as the new state. Okay.
Sorry, John, I have a question.
Yep.
In the 20 line,
yep.
This create a new array, a contact
yep.
array.
Yeah.
And the contact is the previous state.
Yeah.
And they have the photo, the image.
Yeah.
And we can, for each or for loop to throw this new array to my new
And change that avatar URL?
Yeah.
Nope. Nope. Because even though we're copying this, the objects inside are still pointing to the original objects. The array is new. So this array, so bear with me. My new state equals prev state dot contacts, false. But my new state, 0, the first contact,
So it means the 0, 1, both 0, 1 is pointed to the same directory of the contact, and maybe in the memory or in
memory. Yeah, this is called a shallow clone. So this is the difference between a shallow clone and a deep clone. A deep clone clones not only the object that you tell it to, but all of the objects inside of that object recursively. Clones everything. So everything that you get, it's like, so I'm not cloning the entire, everything inside of it. I'm cloning only the outer shell. I'm cloning only that contacts array. So I can go and modify that array, and it doesn't modify this array. Like this array and this array are different, but the things inside of them are the same. So I'm not allowed to touch those, which is why I have to create this extra clone, modify that one, and then replace it. That's why you have to do that. Because of this. Yeah. Crazy, hey?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So can we use the clone deep method?
Is there a deep clone?
In the Node-ish library, I think.
Yeah, you can probably deep clone it if you wanted to, and then go and modify that. That could be a lot of work, not for you, for the computer, but yeah, and then you could just go modify it directly.
A deep clone is to for loop and then push to a new one. Is that right?
No, it's even, no, you still have to, it might be a for loop inside of a for loop. It has to be recursive. So every time you encounter a new object, you have to say, oh, I have to clone this one too, and everything inside of that, new for loop. So you could actually end up running loops inside of loops inside of loops inside of loops inside of loops, cloning everything that, like the whole depth of the object.
All deep to the end.
As deep as it goes, yeah. And the thing is, we don't know how deep it goes. So we essentially have to ask every single element along the way, are you some sort of object, like an array or an object or a function? If you are, okay, well, I have to now deep clone you and everything inside of you, right? And so you have to, it's just like, it builds up and up and up and up. And it's totally possible and you can do it. It's just not ideal.
Maybe the depth is really deep. And
yeah, it can be. Yeah, and there are functions that do it. There are functions that do it, I'm sure of it. But the majority of them, like these triple dots, these are called shallow clones. They only clone one level of the object, just one, just the top level. So everything inside of it, any object inside of it is not cloned. Any non-object, primitive, strings, integers and stuff, those are all get cloned too. Yeah, so those are all new. So you don't have to worry about that.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Okay. So here is your pattern number 3. Pattern number 1, adding. Pattern number 1 is easy. Pattern number 2, removing, filter. Easy. Pattern number 3, changing. It's still this, again, it's pretty much the same pattern. The only things that you're going to be modifying really is this stuff right here. What are you changing? This is going to be the same for you every time, pretty much. Go find the one, clone the element. This is going to be the same for you every time. Okay, here's your pattern. Now it's just a matter of what do you want to change on that element? Do you want to change the avatar? Do you want to change the name? Do you want to change the this? Do you want to change the that? Are you tracking something else? Okay, that's all you need to do. Actually, you don't need to do this for your assignment. So, but you will need to do this for your final project. So, Harris, I didn't get to cover what you asked me to cover today. Sorry about that. What I'm going to ask you to do instead is I'm going to ask you to rewatch yesterday's video, just the end of it. It has all the information you need on how that stuff works. In addition, I'm going to ask you to perform that this weekend on the exercise. So you have an exercise that you can use. Now, if you need an exercise to use to go to the next stage, you can use mine. Okay, it's on GitHub. You have the solution. Clone that, npm install, then you're modifying it. On Monday morning, I'll review all that with you because I'll review the exercise. Okay, so you have it from yesterday. You can rewatch it. You can try it out and try to apply it this weekend. And then on Monday, I'll review the whole thing with you. You don't need to do this crazy update stuff. Okay. And I will review this update stuff with you again before I ask you to do it, like in an assignment type of format. So for this weekend, here's what you got. Exercise 5. So exercise 5 is essentially what I asked you to do yesterday, but with a small twist. So you're going to refactor your to-do list. So you are starting with your to-do list, but you're refactoring it. Instead of having one component like we had, just the one giant component, I want you to make 3 components. One for the whole thing, one for each repair, and one for the form at the top, for the input plus the form. Is it just an input? No, it's an input plus a form. Okay. This will force you to manage state separately for this form. Okay, and it will force you to do what I showed you how to do yesterday. So you're going to have 2 components, and I put that right here. Your repair form component should manage its own form and input elements as controlled components, which means you're going to have 2 components with state. 2 components with state. Your main component and your repair form component. The main component is going to maintain the state of the repairs themselves, all the repairs that it has. The repair form component is only going to be tracking the necessary information it needs to be managing that form and the input. That's it. Okay. In addition to that refactor, I want you to use the component did mount lifecycle event to make AJAX requests out to a API endpoint that I created yesterday. And literally it's just a URL, and it provides you with 20 repairs. So you are going to pre-populate your repair list with these 20 repairs. They don't make any sense. They are nonsense words that are randomly generated, but okay. So it's going to pre-populate and you're going to refactor. So you're going to have the opportunity to try that and to try the refactor. So to try the component did mount and the refactor. If you're finished and you want to go further, you can extend the functionality of this app by re-adding those little checkboxes So you can check off repairs, but then you're going to need to update repairs, and you're going to have to put something crazy like get this in. But again, it's a copy and paste. The only line you're changing is really this and the variable names. Okay. If you also want to, you can post repairs back to this endpoint. So actually, if you post repairs, they'll show up here for everyone else, if you're interested in doing that. That's the extension. I never showed you how to do that. You do that if you want, though.
Will you give us a working example?
No, I don't have a working example for you of having 20 pre-populated.
Just like what it's supposed to look like.
Well, it's supposed to look like exactly what you did yesterday, but with 20 repairs pre-populated. That's it. Right, exactly the same thing as yesterday, except 20 repairs pre-populated in there, but everything else is exactly the same. Right, so it's this. It's like instead of having 0 contacts to start, or instead of having where's my repair one? I mean, like, your working example is essentially this. Right, except instead of having 0 repairs, it starts with this many. That's it. That's the only difference. There's no other difference.
John?
Yeah.
For the main JS app, the state would be an empty object, then fetch the API, pre-populate, and the second one, the form thing, that state is something that we input and...
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
Precisely. Yeah, so your main app.js is maintaining the state of all the repairs, and you're going to fill that up with the stuff that comes in from the API, just like we did today with the contacts. The repair form component is maintaining the state of just this input. Yeah. Okay.
Can I ask a question here?
Yep.
So how does onSubmit method get the input value?
It doesn't need to. Remember, the onSubmit can just get the value from state.
But the
right.
But the state is in the another component?
No. Your form would also be in that component as well. Rewatch yesterday. Okay, rewatch yesterday's video. Just the last, I think it's the last half hour. Just watch the last half hour. Okay, and it'll show you. I'll show you all of that. I show you all of that. Okay, it's interesting. It's really, really interesting how it's done. And once you see it again, it'll be like, if you watch it a couple times and then you actually do it, it'll be like, oh, of course. It seems really complicated, but it's really not. Just like all of these things, they seem super complicated, but like it makes a lot of sense once you start doing it, and then you're like, okay, yeah, that's super stupid. That's dumb how we have to do that. But I guess it makes sense, right? It's just we're lazy. Like we're all lazy. We're all like, I don't want to do this in 10 lines. I want to do it in 1 line. Why isn't there just something that says set state, this object, this attribute, new thing, done, right? But whenever I look at stuff like this, I'm like, oh, my job is so hard. I have to write all this code. I have to type with my fingers. Oh my God. What's wrong with this world? Why doesn't it just like do it? But yeah, that's, it's actually very, once you watch the video and you do it, it's very obvious. Okay. So I'm around this weekend, not going anywhere. Okay. Throw me some questions if you have any. I'll do my best to get back to you. I would recommend, though, my recommendation would be do it this afternoon. When you get back from lunch, go watch the video, go attempt to move that right away, right? Remember, afternoons are lab periods. I received 0 questions yesterday. And Zach received, I don't think he received any either. Okay, that's concerning, right? When we're at this stage and people are as confused as they are and they're not asking questions, that's really concerning. So like having that expectation of, I'm not gonna do it, I don't understand, John's just gonna show me tomorrow. That is like the pitfall of developers going through this program. John will show me tomorrow, John will show me tomorrow. I'll just learn by watching him. No, learn by doing and making mistakes, please.
Sorry, John, are you going to upload yesterday's code to GitHub?
I did.
The contact us stuff.
I did.
It's in Discord.
It's in Discord. Yeah.
I feel like it's hard to ask questions when I'm not sure how to ask or what part I'm struggling with. Does that make sense?
It does. So you need to figure out what part you're struggling with, right? It's hard for me to provide information if you can't figure out what you're struggling with, right? If you have something, if you're like, I'm struggling with everything, then you need to start working and figuring out more specifically what you're struggling with. I don't understand how to set state. I don't understand how to, right? And then at least we have some sort of starting point, right? Not all your questions have to be super direct and super pointed, especially when it's just you submitting a question to me, right? If it doesn't make sense, I'll ask you. I'll be like, well, I don't understand what you're telling me. Can you be more specific, and if I can't help you do that, like I'll try a variety of different methods to try to extract what you're having problems with. But you do need to try to fail, right? If you don't try and fail and you just don't try at all, then that's a bummer, okay? Because that's really where the learning happens.
Okay, thank you, John.
Yeah.
John, I noticed that I'm struggling with these when we extract components. This is where I'm struggling a lot. I mean, how do we structure that components? I mean, to make it everything in a one go, I mean, that is very understandable. But to extract it to a different components and raise events and
try and that's perfect, right? That's why we're practicing it this weekend. What I am not expecting you to do is go into this weekend and be like, yeah, I know how to do this. Bang, 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 done, cool. Half an hour, 45 minutes, I'm all done, right? I don't give you exercises under the expectation that you're just going to blow through it like you know exactly what's going on. I give you exercises under the expectation that you are struggling with it, right? And you don't know. So you are forced to practice and do it and try it. So on Monday, you come in with like, yeah, I tried it and I tried it for 2 hours and I couldn't do it, right? I'm expecting you to walk away from this course right now, today, this class, and work until 3:15 like you would in class. If you're not walking away, and then 2 hours of homework, if you're not walking away doing 4 hours of work today, you're falling below what I'm expecting from you, right? And so you're going to have to do it. You're going to have to fail. You're going to have to watch that lecture again and see how to extract components, okay? And then try it and struggle and go through that. And again, like it sounds like I'm very putting the onus on you, but this is a two-way thing. And I hear what you're saying, Harris. This is difficult stuff. I understand that it's hard to do, but I do need you all to make sure that you continue to put in that sort of work. Coming on Monday, I'll review all of this with you and I'll take the temperature on Monday. I'll see where we're at. My plan right now on Monday is assignment. We come in on Monday, we review this, I'm sending home an assignment. If we come in on Monday, I review this and everyone is telling me like, I still don't get it. Okay, I'll take care of it then. But I do want you to at least attempt it this weekend and come back and see where you're feeling like you fall short. Because I can explain it 100 times, but if you don't try and do it, you'll never get it. Okay. So sorry if I'm being a little evasive and being like, no, don't, like, you go try it. I'm not explaining it again. You have, the explanation is there yesterday, rewatch it. If I explain it again today, it's just going to be the same. Okay. So please just put a little bit more work into it and a little bit more struggle and a little bit more failure. And I'm sorry to have to push that onto you and saying, no, you have to struggle and fail and feel shitty. But this is where the learning is going to happen. Trust me. I've been here before with you in your shoes, and I have been here before as an instructor. Okay. You're not the first group to go through this. Okay, shoot me questions. Okay, I'll do my best to guide you to the answer and not just say, oh yeah, do this. Okay, I'll do my best to guide you to the answer. Ideally, if they are pointed questions, but please, before you do that, please try. Okay, trust me.
Will we get the marks for our other courses soon?
Yes, they should be done. So your SD 140, so the API course, will be done by the end of day today. SD 130 will be done by Monday. Yeah, sorry, there's a lot of stuff to grade, and I've got a lot of stuff to prep here. So I'm leaning very heavily on Zach, but I do have to go through a lot of stuff with him too. So it does take a long time. Yeah, apologies.
John, I'm not speaking for others. I'm just trying to communicate why I don't have any questions during the time you're here. Usually I go through reading right after the class.
Yeah.
Then I watch the video, do the in-class stuff, not the exercise. Then by the time I begin with my exercise, it's around 8 to 9 p.m. When I finish, it's around like 1 a.m. or 2 a.m. And it's usually... if I have a question, I ask you the next morning, like I usually do. The other times are, I know that if I ask you, the answer would come right away and it would help my understanding in a very short time. But if I figure it out on my own after the struggling and the pain, it actually stays with me, like embedded. So
yeah, right.
I kind of like doing it that way. So I hope you don't like take it as my lack of question as, okay.
No, I don't take lack of questions as it's more of a concern. If people came to me and explained everything the same way that you're doing right now, I would say, okay, that's great. I'd also say like, oh shit, really? You're doing that much work and you're up till that late every day? Like that is not my expectation, right? My expectation, if that is the honest average of people right now, then that is not my expectation. And I need to readjust this thing because I don't want people working till 12 o'clock, 10 o'clock at night. If you're working at 10 o'clock at night because you're not working after class, that's a different story, right? If you leave class, go play games, raise your family, and then you start working 8 o'clock till midnight, that's understandable. But if you're working straight and you're not even getting to the point that I need everyone to get to by midnight and you're putting like 8 hours a day, that's a lot.
No, I'm sure everyone's like doing a lot better efficiently. I am just the one my mom calls like the ant type, like just
very
grinds
slow.
at it. Yeah, grinds at it until it stacks up. So I take time.
Okay, so that's good. That's really good feedback and really important that I hear that. That's good to know. Thank you. Does anyone else have any feedback, information, stuff they want to share?
Me too. I feel. Oh, sorry.
Sorry, Millie.
Sorry, I feel the exact same as Saria, but I don't have so much time as her. But I spent a lot of time on reading and understanding this because it is totally different syntax. Just to the concept in my head. So I'm starting to do exercise late, and it's not time for questions.
Right.
I feel similar, very similar to Saria.
If I look
Okay.
at the Discord, it's usually Millie or Sawe around like 2 a.m., 4 a.m. So surreal.
So, okay. Okay. Okay, so now I'm put in a little bit of an interesting position. I would,
But I think that this is the start of this new concept, so you shouldn't be worried. That's my opinion.
I am worried because although we just started it, we're also going to finish it next week.
Yeah, it's intensive.
Yeah, it is. It is intense. It is intense. This whole program is intense, right? And that's kind of and this is kind of what I'm training you for right from the start, from day one, is that like, it's hard. It's a lot of work. It's, you know, it's very trying, but at the same time, hopefully you come out with a really great experience and a lot of learning, and you have done that so far. I just feel like I need a couple of extra days. That's all. Like, I feel like this piece where I'm showing you how to, the API course, in my opinion, was done really well. We took our time, we built a lot of shit, right? And by the time the final projects rolled around, everyone did super good. And I really like that. And I don't feel like I have that sort of time here. I feel like I'm really crunched for time, and I don't like that. I would love to pause right now, not teach you anything new, and just build stuff for a couple days.
That sounds like it's really important.
It is. Yeah.
Cannot we extend this course for one more week as we did it in the API one as well? Like a 3-week course React?
I can extend it. I would be open to extend, and that's kind of what I was saying, like, oh, I'm in a tough position. I'd like to extend it for a couple days. If I extend it for a couple days, though, I eat into the next course. And I only have you until the 29th. That's it. I can't keep you past the 29th. I have to give you away, right? And so I'm running out of days to teach. And so while I do think this is very important, I have to balance that, like, if I take a couple extra days for React, and I know I said this, I would at the beginning, but now it's actually coming to be a realization. If I keep you a couple extra days, I have to take away a couple extra days of presentation.
In my opinion, I mean, 2 weeks is not enough for this class.
I agree.
So I would like to have another week if it's possible.
I probably won't give you a full week, but I'll probably give you a couple of extra days. Okay, let's play it by ear. Let me take your opinions, because I'm feeling the exact same way as you. Okay, but I'm kind of like, I have a schedule. The school's expecting me to, like, right on your transcripts. It says this is how many hours of presentation class you did. You know, if anyone wanted to go complain and say John didn't teach us presentation for this long, right? I'm held responsible. But I do agree with what you're saying. And if, let me take this away this weekend and think about how I can do it and how many extra days I think we might need and what this might look like. And then Monday's a little bit early for an assignment. I feel like we need one more day. So Monday, okay, so here's what we're gonna do. Do this stuff this weekend, spend the time, figure it out. Monday we'll review. Monday I won't teach you anything new. I'll just give you another exercise, and we're just going to work on that. Tuesday will be assignment, okay? And that'll push everything back one day, and then I'll add an extra day to do another piece of work. And so we'll for sure extend it by 2 days, and then I'll deal with the other stuff after. I'll talk to the school and figure out what to do. Okay?
Thank you. I know.
Okay. It's really important. One of the reasons why I feel like those students couldn't answer those questions is, one, it's been 5 months since they did React, and two, it's because you're right, Willie, 2 weeks is not enough time. This needs to be an 84-hour course, not a 50-hour course. So I'm working on changing that already. That's been in the works for a while. But.
Yeah, that's right, John, because in the last course, in the API, I mean, we took it very slowly and we sink in all the concept very nicely. But in this one, every day, I mean, very high level concepts just coming up. Yeah,
I know. And like, so let's pause and we'll, let's Let's master this stuff. I want you to walk away. I don't want to go slowly, but I want you to walk away with a level of mastery and confidence and enjoyment. Like you enjoy doing this and you understand it and you get it. So let's get towards that. Let me take this away this weekend, figure it out, and I'll let you know what the plan is on Monday. But no assignment on Monday, but keep working. Okay, as long as you guys are working, I'm happy. That's the most important thing to me.
Thanks, Sean.
Okay. Yeah. And we're done. It's 12 o'clock. We should go eat some lunch. Okay. Thank you very much. Enjoy your weekend. Of course, let me know if you're having any problems. I'll be happy to help you if I can. And otherwise, I will see you on Monday. Okay.
Have a nice weekend. Bye.
Thank you. You too.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.